Hi everyone, this is the 6th genetic testing update that I've done. If you have no idea what I'm going on about, I really suggest that you go back to the first one and watch them all, because they kind of tell a little story all on their own. I did an update last week, or was it only this week? It could have been Monday. Monday I did an update, because I had my appointment on the Tuesday. I'm in my mum's study because Leo's home from nursery because he's not very well and he is having a nap on my bed, so I can't do it in my room. So I'm in here. On Tuesday I went early in the morning to the hospital to have a blood test, and this was to determine if I have myotonic dystrophy, which is something that my dad has. It's quite serious if your children are born with it, which your children are only born with it if the mother has it, so, and it's a 50-50 chance that that can happen. So obviously with Gio and I being back together, and we're very serious and everything, we one day would like to have more children, and one of the things that I wanted to get out of the way before, well, like really early out of the way in advance, was to find out whether I have the same condition as my dad, because having this myotonic dystrophy and stuff, I would absolutely want to avoid without hesitation having a child with it, because it's very severe if a child has it from birth, and it usually means that they don't make it into very far into adulthood at all. In fact, I think 2 of my cousins had it because my dad's sister has it, and neither of them lived beyond their teens. So obviously, you know, out of her 3 children, 2 of them died, and I just think that's awful. I don't want to repeat that. I went to the hospital and I thought it wasn't going to take long. I thought it would be, you know, get there and probably wait around a little bit, because you normally have to, and then have a little conversation with the consultant or whoever, and then have a blood test. I went in for an appointment at 9:10 and I came out at about 11:45, midday, you know? So it took a lot longer than I expected. I did take some video when I was actually in the hospital, which I will just put in here. I'm here at the hospital and I'm just waiting for the registrar to come back because she's gone to go and get her boss. But as per usual, I'm a case of interest to them, and she's gone to go and get her supervisor, because there's a lot of stuff going on with me that's very unusual, so she might come back in a minute, so I have to stop. But she's done like a physical exam, and she asked me lots of questions, and obviously she thinks that there's something worth noting going on. So yeah, these appointments are always hard, because I find them hard personally, because it just highlights everything that I have ever thought that was wrong with me. Everything that I hate most about myself is physically is talked about very openly, and the kind of words that I used, like abnormal and deformity and stuff, it's just all such negative connotations with it. As I'm sitting here, I feel really nervous. You can probably see that the phone is shaking all over the place. I don't know why I feel nervous. They haven't even taken any blood. They're not telling me any results. They're not doing anything like that would make me feel nervous, but I feel quite emotional too. And I think if they take some blood and they're going to give me results whenever, I think the next time I would bring maybe Gio along, or my mum if he couldn't make it, but it's always really hard. And I think it just makes me all the more glad that Leo is such a healthy little boy. Because if I had to do all this with him, I think I'd just feel 100 times worse. Anyway, I think I'm going to go because I think she's going to come back, so Anyway, so as I said in that bit of video, I saw the registrar, which if some of you don't know, which you might not, the registrar is kind of like below the consultant, and the consultant is the person who runs the clinic, and then you've got the registrar and they're like students. So I saw her. She was very nice, and she was quite thorough in a physical examination after we had discussed the family history and the reasons for my visit at length. I mean, I think we were talking at least sort of 20 minutes about everything. And she just did a series of sort of tests to see, well, test the strength of my muscles, basically. And she felt that I had some weakness in my neck. And also one of the typical things about myotonic dystrophy is that when you grip something really hard, it's then very difficult to get your grip to release because the muscles don't respond in the way that they should. So she felt that there was some of that going on, and that was one of the things that I felt was concerning me, because I knew that it was a symptom and I was obviously quite worried. But the thing is with me is that it's variable, and it only seems to be in a particular part of my hand. It's not all of my fingers, it's just a few, which could be related to another thing that I wanted to have tested, which I'm going to have to wait much longer for, and that's a different story altogether. So after that she got the consultant, which is when I did the bit of video, and I was waiting for her to come back. And when she came back, she brought her boss with her, and he was a very nice man, very straightforward talking, and he did a few of the tests himself, and he sat down and he said, from just looking at you, I would suspect that you have myotonic dystrophy, but the only way for it to be conclusive is to have your blood tested, which they filled out the paperwork for and sent me down to pathology. It was actually quite hard to sit there and listen to all these things and talk over just, you know, how they were going to find out. I gave them permission to write to me with the results because it would take longer for them to see me face to face, and I kind of want the results soon. I just want to get it done. I just want to know. But I think sitting there and having it talked about very openly made it very, very real, and it was quite upsetting actually, and I held on to myself, you know, I didn't lose it, although it was quite emotional. Leo, as far as I'm concerned, is completely healthy. He gives me no concern at all about his health. There's a 40% chance that if I have the myotonic dystrophy, there's a 40% chance that he will develop it as an adult. But obviously he doesn't have the congenital version because he's completely healthy, and you'd be able to tell when he was born. So that's good, you know, that's an upshot. He's a very bright, healthy young man, little boy. You know, he's my little man, which is great. So then they sent me down to pathology to have a blood test, and that took ages. It was, when I got there, it's like a ticket thing. You take a ticket with a number and then they call you up. And when I got there, they were serving number 44 and I had ticket number 68. So there's over 20 people to see between me and when I walked in. So it was pretty full, it was busy. And I sat there once I was able to get a seat, and like you do, you sit there and you go over it in your head, everything that's been said, everything that, you know, what this means, you know, you're running through all these scenarios in your head, and the closer it got to my number, the more nervous I got, and probably the more emotional I got too. I was trying to keep a lid on it, because obviously I don't want to go to pieces. In the waiting room, people will be like, oh my god, you know, she's crying. You know, it's just a bit awkward. So holding on to it. My heart was pounding away when the buzzer went, you know, number 68. And I was like, oh my god. So I got up, went into the little booth, and they had like several stations set up, and when I sat down in the chair, all it took was the nurse to ask me, "Are you alright?" And that was it. I was away. I didn't cry lots, but I definitely did cry. And she was very nice. She closed the curtains and she gave me a box of tissues and she talked to me about it a bit, is it the blood test that's making you feel upset? And I just shook my head because I couldn't speak, you know when you don't sort of trust yourself to open your mouth and speak. So I just shook my head and she said, "Was it the consultation?" And then she said something like, "Was it something unexpected?" And she said, "But maybe it was something you didn't want to hear?" And I said, so she continued with the blood test and she told me that they have to be sent away. It'll take a little while, but as far as I understand, when they take blood from you, they have to sort of process it as quickly as possible. So I don't really know when I will get results, but they will come to me in the post, and I'm kind of half dreading, half wanting that day to come. Because I know when I get the letter I won't feel like opening it, but I will need to open it. And also, a little bit of kind of poetic, I don't know what you want to call it, but when I was sat there in the nurse's station having my blood taken and I was really upset, the song on the radio was Breakaway Break something by The Script. I had to look it up because I don't really keep up with pop music, but I kind of knew the song and I knew the lyrics, and any of you who do know it know that the lyrics are just like, the chorus is something like, "I'm falling to pieces, I'm falling to pieces, I'm falling to pieces." And I was just like, this is incredibly appropriate for this moment. Anyway, the nurse was like, "Do you have someone with you?" Which I didn't. I went on my own. And the morning had already been quite stressful because I was supposed to get a lift to the hospital. I didn't want to drive myself because I didn't want to have the hassle of parking and paying. But my lift didn't show, so I drove myself, and I got there more or less on time, but then I couldn't get to the department because they'd had a problem with one of the pipes or something and it had flooded, and I couldn't find another way through to get to the department until I bumped into some very nice nurses who took me all the way to the department and then told me the best way to get out of the department as well, to avoid all the commotion. So that was really good, but I mean, just everything altogether in one was quite stressful, quite a lot to take on, just a horrendous morning basically. And that pretty much wrote the rest of the day off. I just felt so tired, I felt so kind of drained from the whole experience for the rest of the day. I was just absolutely shattered. Gio came over in the evening because I kind of needed like some comfort, and I have to say he's been amazing throughout all of this. I really feel quite fortunate, quite lucky to have somebody who's as understanding as he is, and somebody who actually wants to sort of stick with me through it, because it certainly means that if I have the condition, it means things for us. I'm partly doing it because of that. I want to avoid having a severely disabled child if I can. Obviously, some things you can't do anything about, and sometimes it's luck of the draw, just like my sister was luck of the draw. No one did anything to cause that, she just was as she was, but in this instance I am taking measures in order to avoid that. Basically the consultant was talking about the fact that I had mentioned that I wanted to have more children with my partner, and that if we needed to, if it turns out that I have a positive result and I do have the myotonic dystrophy, then they can refer us to the family planning clinic and we will be, sort of given our options. So I don't really know what that means, and I think that was one of the most upsetting things, because part of me realises that we won't, if it's positive, we won't be able to sort of do the baby thing the traditional way. It might end up being quite clinical and quite artificial. Who knows? I mean, maybe, who knows, the best option might be in the end to not have any more children of our own and just adopt or something. I don't know. There's a lot of unanswered questions, and I've kind of put off doing this update until today, because today I actually feel like I'm able to sort of deal with it a little better. The past 2 days I've just been really exhausted and just taking time to kind of assimilate and process. So obviously the next update I will probably do, unless there's anything that happens between now and getting the results, is when I get the results I will do an update. But I expect maybe I will know by next month what's going on. Yeah. So pretty heavy stuff that has made the week tricky. But yeah, that's life. That is life. And whatever happens, it is not going to serve me if I break down and cry. The best thing I can do is just accept what I have been given, know that I'm capable of dealing with it, and continue with my life in the way that suits us as a family. And we will get through it, basically. You know, whatever happens, we'll get through it. So, before I start getting all over emotional, I'm going to cut this video short and just say goodbye, and I'll speak to you guys another time. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. It's really nice, it's really lovely. I know I don't reply all the time, but I do read every single comment that I get, so don't feel ignored. Honest. Right, ciao for now. Bye.